Om Sadashiva-Samarambham Shankaracharya-Madhyamam Asmadacharya-Paryantam Vande Guru-Paramparam. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat. Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
So, Tanmay, could you please chant from 11 to maybe around 15?
Cancel this.
Param avyaktam avyaktat purushah paraha purushanna parang kinchit akashtha sa paragatihi esha sarveshu bhuteshu gudhotmana prakashate Drishyate tvagrayaya buddhya Sukshmaya sukshmadarshibihi Yadvedvan manasi prajnah Tadyachet jnana atmani Jnanam atmani mahati niyachet Tadyachet chanta atmani Uttishta jagrata Prapya varan nibodhata Shurasya dhara nishita duratyaya Dursam pathastat kavayo vadanti Asabdam asparsham marupamavyayam Parasannityam agandhavacchayat Anadyanantam mahatah param shrutam dhruvam Ekaya tandrityumukhat pramujyate
Oh, thank you, Tanmay. Okay, so I'll just mute you all and then we can start. So, in the last mantra, we saw one set of equations. We said that the Indriyas are superior to the Indravishayas. The sense objects are superior to the sense organs, we said. We said that the Manaha, the mind, is superior to the Vishayas, sense objects, and therefore obviously superior to the sense organs also. And buddhi, we said the intellect is superior to the mind, and mahat is superior to the intellect. So now here he is continuing with that gradation, the series of steps. So avyaktam, the first line, mahatah param avyaktam. You have to rearrange that. Avyaktam mahatah param. So avyaktam is unmanifest maya, the unmanifest. Avyaktam, the unmanifest maya, is mahatah param, is superior to mahat. And avyaktat purushah paraha. So purushaha, the atma, paraha, is superior to avyaktam, to the unmanifest. And purushat na kinchit. Purushat na kinchita param. There is nothing na kinchita param purushat, superior to the atma, and therefore sa kashtha. Kashtha means the highest limit or the maximum level, the culmination. So sa kashtha, that is the ultimate, it is the highest limit, and therefore sa paragatihi. Sa refers to atma here. So sa kashtha means atma is kashtaha. Atma is the ultimate destination, the ultimate objective. Sa paragatihi, that atma is the superior goal. So avyaktam. So avyaktam here is what it is, what we called in Tattvabodha, samashti anandamaya kosha, or samashti karana shariram, also called maya tattvam. What was this called in Tattvabodha?
Antaryami.
Antaryami. So that one word avyaktam, you have to immediately bring all these definitions to your mind. This Anandamaya Kosha, Samashti Anandamaya Kosha, universal Anandamaya Kosha, or Samashti Karana Shariram, the universal causal body, or Antaryami, also known as Maya Tattvam, unmanifest Maya. And Shankara gives a specific definition to avyaktam. In his commentary, he says, Sarvasya Jagataha Bija Bhutam. Bija Bhutam means it is in the form of the seed. Bija Bhutam, in the form of the seed. For what? Sarvasya Jagataha, for the entire creation. And remember here, when you say entire creation, what is the firstborn? You have to recall Mundaka Upanishad. What is the firstborn in creation?
Brahmaji.
Brahmaji.
Also known as
Hiranyagarbha.
Hiranyagarbha. So, Sarvasya Jagataha Bija Bhutam means that Antaryami is the cause, is in the form of the seed, the cause for the entire universe, the entire creation, which includes Hiranyagarbha. And Param Mahataha. Therefore, since it is the cause for Hiranyagarbha also, obviously the Karanam is superior to the Karyam, and therefore Mahata Param. That Mahat is, this is superior to that Mahat, which is Hiranyagarbha. So Avyaktam is superior to Mahat, means the Karana Shariram, Samashti Karana Shariram, the Antaryami, is superior to Hiranyagarbha, which in Tattvabodha term means Antaryami is the Karanam and Hiranyagarbha is the first Karyam. From Hiranyagarbha, of course, the entire universe flows. Okay. Why is Antaryami said to be the cause of Hiranyagarbha and superior to it? That is because in that Antaryami, all the past and the future creations are already there in potential form. All the past creations are there, and all the future is there in potential form, which means all the firstborns which will come in all the future universes, all future srishtis, is there in potential form. And therefore, Antaryami contains all the future Hiranyagarbhas. And therefore, it is superior to the current Hiranyagarbha. That is a very good way of understanding. That Antaryami, that unmanifest Maya, it is the seed, it is the potential for all the future universes. And in terms of that, it is the potential cause for all future Hiranyagarbhas. And therefore, obviously, it is superior to this one Hiranyagarbha of this current universe. So, it contains all the future universes. And that is why I keep saying that for a Vedantic student, cosmology must be an area of interest, because the infinite aspects of the cosmos, they are very useful in expanding your mind. So for example, you take your galaxy itself, the Milky Way, right? It's a huge complex of systems, solar systems, and our sun is one ordinary sun in this Milky Way, and there are millions of such stars. Our sun is a star, and there are millions of such stars in the Milky Way itself, and there are millions and billions of galaxies like the Milky Way in the universe. So when one considers and thinks, contemplates on these sort of aspects, one realizes how huge is the concept of infinity. When one says infinite, it's for most of us just a word, but contemplation on cosmology will make it a little more real, how big it can come. So from Hiranyagarbha, you have to come to Avyaktam. And then Avyaktat Param Purushaha. There is something superior to that Samashti Anandamaya Kosha. There is something superior to the Antaryami, and that is the Atma, the Purushaha, the consciousness principle, Chaitanya Tattva. Why? Because it is because of that consciousness principle that one is aware of the Anandamaya Kosha itself. The concept of Antaryami itself, you are aware only because of the consciousness principle. And therefore he says, Purushat Param Na Kinchit Asti. There is nothing superior to this Atma. And once I have understood that, that is the causeless cause. There is no cause for the Atma. It is the one cause which has no cause itself. It is a causeless cause. And I have to learn to say that I am this Atma. Once I have claimed myself as this Atma, my spiritual journey is over. And so, Sa Kashtaha, the final limit has been reached. And Sa Paragatihi, this is the highest Purushartha called moksha. Okay, now when I say Sa Paragatihi, as advanced Vedic students, what is the question which should come to your mind? Mananam. Sa Kashtha, Sa Paragatihi. Anybody?
It's the Shukla mark.
No, I want a more specific. No question. Don't ask me the question. What is the question that should come to your mind?
Moksha. No rebirths. Janam.
Gatihi is usually considered some place that you go to, and out here the question then arises that if I am Atma, then where is there to go? How can I go there?
Exactly. So Gatihi means travel, right? And if Sa Paragatihi, if I have to travel to achieve moksha, any place you travel to is reached in time, right? If I travel from here to Bombay, it takes me 1 hour to reach there by a flight, and therefore Bombay is reached in time after one hour. Anything which is reached in time, the rule is what is obtainable in time is also disposed by time. And therefore, if I have to reach somewhere through travel, it cannot be permanent. That is a question which is not stated, but Shankara in his commentary gives a reply anyway. He says, Naisha doshaha. There is no defect in the usage of this word, because Brahman is my very own nature. Brahman is my very own Swarupam. And therefore he says, this Gatihi has to be understood as Avagatihi. A very brilliant statement. Avagatihi means understanding, knowledge. Gatihi means travel. So he says that Actually, Yamaraj meant to say avagati. He probably stumbled and said gati. So you have to say avagati. Knowing, understanding that Brahman, that is to be understood. And therefore there is no defect in the usage of the term gati. That question of travel doesn't arise only. And when we talk about travel, we should remember that if one has to reach some place through travel, right? Now, travel can be in two ways. Travel can be spatially, in space, or time-wise. So, either way, if you have to travel and reach some place, two conditions have to be fulfilled. One is the place which you are going to reach has necessarily to be anatma. Why is that so? Why does the place which you are going to reach necessarily have to be anatma?
Atma is everywhere. You don't have
Atma
to
is
go to
everywhere.
reach Atma.
Atma is everywhere. You don't have to travel. And therefore, if you travel to reach, it has necessarily to be Atma, Anatma, and also it should be away from you. It should be remote, space-wise or time-wise. And Shankara says the Atma is neither remote nor Anatma. And that which is not remote and not away from you, which means it is your very own nature, there never a question of that Atma being reached through travel in space and time. That is why Gati has to be understood as Avagati. And having understood this, then what should I do? That is said in the next verse. So, Esha Sarveshu Bhuteshu Gudotmana Prakashate Drishyate Tvagrayaya Buddhaya Sukshmaya Sukshma Darshibhi. So, Gudaha Atma. So, if you are to break it up and rearrange the words a bit, Eshaha from the first word, the Atma from the fourth word. So, Gudatma has to be broken into Gudaha and Atma. So, you take the Atma from there. Eshaha Atma, this Atma, which is present Sarveshu Bhuteshu, which is present in all beings. Gudaha, it is hidden. And therefore only, because it is hidden, na prakashayate, it is not effulgent, it is not evident. Tu, but what? Drishyate, it can be seen by Sukshma Darshibhihi. People who have, Darshi is the one who sees, Sukshma is subtle. So Sukshma Darshibhihi, people who have got subtle vision. So this people whose vision is subtle are able to see this Atma which is otherwise hidden. And the second condition is Agraya Sukshma Buddhaya. So that Tvagraya has to be broken up. One is tu, and then Agraya. Agraya Sukshma Buddhaya, which Agraya means very sharp. So Sukshma means subtle. Agraya Sukshma Buddhaya, very sharp and subtle intellect that person should have. This is what is being conveyed. And therefore, this sadhaka has to go through the spiritual journey. It is a long journey. Why? Because at each stage, he has to remain in that particular stage long enough for the knowledge to be assimilated. Like the lime in the pickle sauce. You can't take out the lime immediately. It will not be soaked. Similarly, with this sadhaka. And therefore, sarva bhuteshu, that Atma is present in all living beings. As what? Chaitanya Tattvam, the consciousness principle. At the same time, Gudaha, it is hidden. We say Atma is self-effulgent, self-evident. But here, Shruti says it is hidden. Yamraj says the Atma is hidden. It is not immediately evident to you. Why? Because Maya distracts you at every moment. Just like when you look at my hand in the light, You focus on the hand and not on the light. Even though without the light, you will not be able to see the hand. What is primarily visible is the hand. And sometimes you have to be reminded that yes, the light is also there. Similarly, like the light being hidden, this Atma is also hidden. In spite of the fact that without the Atma, nothing happens in this universe. And therefore, Maya, which distracts me, is called Mohini. And in Bhagavad Gita, we saw Mohitam Abhijanati. The one who deludes, that is the Mohini. So because of that, Atma is as though hidden. It's not really hidden. It is lost sight of. And what is lost sight of is seemingly hidden. Like sometimes you have the necklace around your neck and you forget about it. Or you have the specks on your nose and you go all around the house searching for the specks. Even though specks are on your nose, for you, it is lost sight of, because you don't recognize it as being present on your nose. And therefore only na prakashati. Even though it is evident in plain sight, I do not recognize the Atma, just like I don't recognize the spectacles. And therefore I fail to claim that I am the Atma. And when I fail to claim that I am the Atma, the Jiva, remember, consists of Atma and Anatma. And if the Jiva fails to recognize the Atma, he sees only the perishable Anatma, perishable body, and therefore he claims that body as himself. So na prakashati. And this Atma can be understood Agraya Sukshma Buddhaya, specially trained intellect. Trained by what? Karma Yoga, Upasana, etc. The entire range of sadhanas is covered here in the concept of training the intellect. In fact, even Ishvara, we should not confine to a limited body. So we have Rama, Krishna, all that Ishtadevatas we have. Remember that meditation on Ekarupa Ishvara, Rama or Krishna or Shiva or Vishnu or Devi or Ganesha, that meditation, that dhyanam will not expand your mind. If your mind want your mind to be expanded, then your meditation has to turn, has to be upgraded from Ishtadevata meditation to Vishwarupa meditation. And when we say Vishwarupa meditation, that is what I meant by the cosmos. The cosmos is the next best thing to infinity that you have. And luckily for us, there are any number of scientific journals which you can read and see what is the actual size of the universe. The estimated size today is something like 13.5 or 13.7 billion light years. It's a mind-boggling figure. Light travels at 186,000 miles per second approximately. So that 186,000 miles per second, you multiply by 60 seconds, by 60 minutes, by 1 hour, by 24 hours, by 1 month, by 1 year. The light traveling for 1 year is called a light year. And like that, the size of the universe is 13.7 billion times that. It's a mind-boggling figure. And if you're able to visualize all this, even faintly, it is a very big help in expanding your mind. That's why we say Vishwarupa Dhyanam. Virat Ishvara Dhyanam is very important for a seeker. And the progress is from Ekarupa, the Ishtadevata, to Vishwarupa, Aneka Rupa. And finally, you have to drop Vishwarupa also, because Vishwarupa is also Dvaitam. You are there and universe is there separately from you. You have to drop that. And therefore, from Aneka Rupa Ishvara, you have to move to Arupa, the formless form of the universe, which is what? Nothing but formless consciousness principle. And therefore, finally, when the intellect becomes sharp enough, Agraya, and sensitive enough, Sukshmaya, capable of comprehending this abstract concept of consciousness, formless, all-pervading consciousness, then we start meditating on that consciousness as evident, as taught to us by the scriptures. And therefore, one should never look for the Atma. So from blankness to consciousness, shifting from object to subject, not object to object. Blankness is still an object. And therefore, the final jump in our program, in our progress, is not from blankness to another object. It is from blankness, which is the object, to the witness of the blankness, which is the subject. When we do Pancha Kosha Dhyanam, it is shifting from object to object. So you go from Anandamaya to Pranamaya to Manomaya to Vijnanamaya. Sorry, not Anandamaya, Annamaya. Annamaya to Pranamaya to Manomaya to Vijnanamaya and to Anandamaya. So from Annamaya to Anandamaya is a shift from Kosha to Kosha, from object to object. But from Anandamaya to Atma, that is the final shift from object to subject. So claiming that consciousness principle as me, as the Sakshi, that is the last leg of the spiritual journey. And therefore, in our scriptures, in all the Upanishads, you will find there are any number of meditations given on space, on light, etc. So Akasha Dhyanam and Prakasha Dhyanam, meditation on Akasha, space, and meditation on Prakasha, light. These are all prescribed methods for increasing the subtlety of the mind, refining the mind so that it can be capable of conceiving and grasping these subtle principles. Then a question might come. If you are saying that Atma is Swayam Prakashaha, that is very often used. In Mundaka also we saw Atma is Swayam Prakashaha, self-effulgent. Then why does Yamaraj say, Na prakashate, Atma na prakashate? It does not shine. Why does he say that? So the answer is, for the unprepared mind, for the mind which does not have Chitta Shuddhi, Sadhana Chatushtha Sampannam is not there, that Atma, that unrefined intellect, for him, the Atma is not noble at all. And therefore it is said, Na prakashate. So the first line means, for a Ajnani who has not bothered to prepare his mind, it is not possible to conceive of the Atma. That is why second line says, you have to have a subtle and refined intellect to be able to understand the Atma. Okay. Now the 13th mantra. So here prajnaha. You have to distinguish between this prajna and which prajna?
RC1.
Ignorance and knowledge.
What is the difference? Tatvoda prajna. And we have one student here, of course, who is not present today. He's in the US. Prajna. What is the difference between prajna and prajna?
Knowledge and ignorance.
Okay, more or
Pradya and
less.
tattva, yeah.
More or less, yes, that's correct. So prajna here means the discriminative person. Okay, the discriminative viveki. What should he do? So you look at the first word. That has to be broken up. Yachet, vak, manasi. So that is broken into three different words. Yachet, vak, and manasi. Prajnaha. So prajna is the subject of that sentence, the discriminative person, the viveki. What should you do? Yachet. Yachet means resolve. How does he resolve and what does he resolve? Vak manasi. The words, the speech, he should resolve into the mind. Vak into manas. That is the first yachit, resolution. Then what should you do? Then tat yachet jnane atmani. So that again, very carefully break it up. Tat yachet jnane atmani. So tat here refers to that. And this that you have to connect to manasi, that mind. That mind yachet, this prajna should resolve jnane atmani, into the intellect. So the thing is, first resolve the speech into the mind, and then resolve the mind into the intellect. And niyachet, again, same thing, resolve. Niyachet, he should resolve jnanam, the intellect, into what? Mahati atmani, into mahat. He should resolve into mahat. And yachet tat, jnanam atmani mahati niyachet, he should resolve the intellect into the mahat. And again, the last quarter, tat yachet shante atmani. So chantam, when it is broken up, it becomes shantaha. So tat yachet shanta atmani. Actually, shanta is to be read as shante because of Sandhi rules. It is given as chanta. When you break it up, it becomes shante. And therefore, the critical word here is yachet, resolution. What are you doing? You're going to resolve the speech into the mind, then that mind into the intellect, then that intellect into samashti intellect, mahat, and then mahat into shante atmani, which is the atma. You're resolving that. Okay. This is the Pancha Kosha meditation, which is given in Taittiriya in different words. But here he uses this particular language. Let us see what it means. So this mantra essentially is Nididhyasanam mantra. It is not meant for the person who has not got jnana. Okay. So Yamaraj is assuming that all of us have got the necessary jnanam. Shravanam, Mananam is over. And therefore is giving instructions for Nididhyasana. Very, very important mantra for all of us who are advanced Vedantic students. So Prajnaha is the Viveki. Viveki is the Vedantic student who has successfully completed Shravanam and Maranam. I am saying successfully because there are people who can do it 20 times and still ask the same questions, but successfully completed Shravanam and Maranam. And therefore, when you have completed Shravanam and Maranam, remember you are already a Jnani. A successful completion of Shravanam and Maranam implies my knowledge is unbroken, unshaken knowledge that I am Brahman. Shravanam gives me the knowledge that I am Brahman. Maranam takes away all the doubts which I have. And therefore, post Shravanam and post Maranam, I am a Jnani. Right? I know that I am Brahman with conviction. Why do you need Nididhyasanam? Because in spite of knowing that you have Shravanam and Maranam done and that I am Brahman, I may still have some habitual thinking patterns. For thousands of lives, janmas, I have thought that I am a finite jiva, subject to sorrow, subject to problems. That thinking process is still there. And therefore, though I know I am Brahman, I am not getting the benefits of being Brahman. What is the benefit? The unshaken understanding that I am not subject to any sorrow at all. Nothing in the world touches me at all. And therefore, I am completely free of all problems. That is the jnana phalam, which I should get. But if I am not getting that, even though I know that I am Brahman, then it's a clear indication that I need Nididhyasana. And this nididhyasanam is necessary for 99.999% of all seekers. So let us be very clear. Even if you know that you are Brahman, if you have, times of low FIR, disturbed FIR, then you need nididhyasana. Yamaraj is saying how to do that. So the person who is got these habitual thinking problems, thinking patterns, he is trying to get out of that subconscious triangular format. Why am I saying subconscious triangular format? Because consciously, because of successful Shravanam and Maranam, consciously I am already in the binary format. But the unconscious triangular format is what is troubling me. And that is what I need to get off. I have to break out of my habitual thinking patterns. So, what is the process? First and foremost, I should have Atma, Anatma, Viveka. That is the first thing to do in the spiritual journey. The second thing is I have to claim that Atma is myself. And this is possible only when I remove the obstacle which obstructs this claiming. What is an obstacle? It is my identification with each of the 5 koshas. So, ahankara, mamakara, possessions, profession, family, all this identification is there. And those I have to remove. And through this removal of this identification, deha abhimana being removed, then only I will be able to get rid of my triangular format tendencies. And therefore, Yamaraj is saying that you have to practice this particular nididhyasanam. And in this nididhyasanam, I have to practice disowning each of the koshas. Remember, I know I am Brahman, but at a subconscious level, I may still think this body is mine, or I am the body. So that subconscious thinking patterns, they have to be removed. And that, there's a technical name for that in the scriptures. It is called pravilapanam. Pravilapanam means resolution. Dissolving the self-identification as the body, as the Annamaya Kosha, as the Pranamaya Kosha, all that is to be resolved, to be dissolved. And that dissolution is called pravilapanam. So we will come across this word very frequently, so you should remember. Pravilapanam is resolving the body identification. What should you do? You should hand them all over to Vishwarupa Ishvara. So there is no jiva for you, no children, no family members, no wife, no husband, no friends. None of them are ever really yours, right? It's a very important thing for us as parents and grandparents to understand. No children are really mine. They are all jivas. And just like me, they have also always existed. I have been only the pipe for giving them a fresh body, right? What does the pipe do? The water flows through the pipe. But it would be very foolish for the pipe to claim that the water is its own. It is only a conduit. Similarly, we are only the pipeline for the new jivas or the old jivas to take new bodies. We can never claim those children as ours. Physically, our body is responsible for their bodies. But as a jiva, as the Sukshma Shariram, they have always been there, like we also have always been there. So here, Yamaraj is presenting Pancha Kosha Dhyanam as the solution. How will I know when I have handed over all the Pancha Koshas successfully to Ishvara? What is the indicator? Today, if you look back, we will see that many of us have the need to control things around us. Do we have? I must do it this way. This must happen that way. My children must be like this. My husband or my wife should behave like this. My friend should talk like this. My student should behave in this manner. The need for control is there. And therefore that indicates mamakara. These are all belonging to me, and therefore I need to control. So the first thing which disappears is the mamakara. The need for control will weaken and vanish. And that is your first indicator. You will realize that you are not a controller of anything. And there are only two roles which you can play, either a controller or a contributor. So from the controller, I put on the role of the contributor. I do what I can to help out family members, friends, to the world, etc. But I do not expect to control anything. When the idea of controlling is given up, you will find that anxiety comes down. Your worries come down. And this reduction of anxiety is the indication of mamakara reduction, relinquishing the fact that I am in control, that this belongs to me. Once you relinquish all that, this is what Krishna called Sharanagati. This is the surrender to the Lord, handing over all these possessions to whom it belongs, to the Lord. So you start with your external possessions, with your profession, with your possession. Then you start with your family. And finally, you hand over ahankara and mamakara. This is the root. And therefore, Yamaraj says here, Yachet Vak Manasi Prajnaha. Prajnaha, the Vedantic student who has studied the Upanishad, he hands over the Vak, the speech, to the mind. He resolves the speech into the mind. Now here Vak is speech. It is a tongue basically, the sense organ, the tongue. And here it should be taken as Upalakshanam, representing all the sense organs, all the five Jnanendriyas it represents. Therefore, he should resolve the Jnanendriyas into the mind. That is what it means. Vak, Manasi, Yachet. He should resolve the Indriyas, Jnanendriyas into the mind, which literally means what? What do I mean by resolution? This is the Pancha Kosha Viveka starting. The first point, the first one is of course Annamaya to Pranamaya. That has not been mentioned at all in this mantra. The first is to move my identification from the physical body, the Annamaya Kosha, to Pranamaya Kosha. That is not being mentioned over here. That we have to supply. That is the first stage of Pancha Kosha Viveka. What is the second stage? I move from identification with the sense organs. I move backwards, identifying with the mind. So in Tattvoda terms, I have to move back from Vishwa to Taijasa to Prajna. And here when I say in Panchakosha terms, when I am saying that I have to shift my identification from the sense organs to the mind, which kosha to which kosha am I talking about?
Pranamaya Kosha to Manomaya.
Somebody said something I can't hear.
Pranamaya to Manomaya.
Pranamaya to Manomaya. So this Vak, Manasi, Yachet is shifting the identification from Pranamaya to Manomaya. So what I'm essentially doing is, when I'm shifting identification, I am saying that this Pranamaya I cannot be. Right? The Panchakosha Viveka is just that only. This Pranamaya I cannot be because I am Atma. And as Atma, my characteristics which are told to me by the scripture, by Shastram, are what? All-pervading, unchanging. Are those characteristics fitting the Pranamaya Kosha? So I examine in the light of the Shastram. This resolution is this way. I know what Atma is. I know I am Atma. And remember, this is Nidhi Dhyasanam. And therefore, I know all this because Shravanam and Mananam is over. Therefore, I know what Atma is. I know what I am. So I no longer say Atma is all-pervading. I say I am all-pervading. I no longer say Atma is changeless. I say I am changeless. And therefore, with that knowledge in mind, I say, this Pranamaya Kosha, does it fit this definition that of me? I say no, because Pranamaya Kosha is constantly changing. And therefore, I drop the Pranamaya Kosha as myself and move one step upwards into the Manomaya Kosha. Which means what? I have converted Pranamaya Kosha to Anatma. And now I am saying I am Manomaya Kosha. This is the second stage. First stage, of course, is that I have converted Annamaya Kosha to Anatma and moved to Pranamaya Kosha. Now from Pranamaya, I am moving to Manomaya. And then he says, Tat Atmani Niyachet. Jnana Atmani Niyachet. So Jnana Atmani is the Vijnanamaya Kosha. And therefore from Manomaya Kosha, I come to Vijnanamaya Kosha using the same logic. That I am changeless, I am all-pervading, all these, everything which I have learned about myself as Atma, I apply those parameters to the Vijnanamaya Kosha, to the Manomaya Kosha. And then I say, this Manomaya Kosha I am not. And therefore, I convert Manomaya Kosha into Anatma and take one step backwards and say, I am now Vijnanamaya Kosha. Right? Then he says, Tat Yachet Mahati Atmani. That Vijnanamaya Kosha, I have to convert it. I have to step back. I have to resolve it into Mahat. What is Mahat? Samashti Vijnanamaya Kosha is Mahat. What is the other name for Samashti Vijnanamaya Kosha? Tattvabodha should
Hiranyagarbha.
Hiranyagarbha. And therefore, this individual intellect, I have to say that is not me, because the intellect is also constantly changing. And therefore, I resolve that into the Hiranyagarbha, Samashti Vijnanamaya Kosha. Now, one question should come up. What is that question? If you have been following the arguments, you should automatically have one question.
How to dissolve into the unmanifested?
Sorry?
How to dissolve the Hiranyagarbha into the unmanifested?
Before that, there's one more question which you should have asked.
Hiranyagarbha is total subtle body, which consists of Pranamaya, Manomaya, and Vijnanamaya, all three koshas.
No, Mahat, when you mean, you are talking about the Samashti Vijnanamaya, Samashti. But that is not the question. The question is that you have gone step by step, Annamaya to Pranamaya to Manomaya to Vijnanamaya, and then you went straight away to what? What should you have gone to?
Consider yourself as Vishwarupa Ishvara and not
No, that is Virat. We are talking not we are talking about the koshas over here. You should have gone from Vijnanamaya Kosha to Anandamaya Kosha. Why have we not gone to Anandamaya Kosha? Why have we not gone to Karana Shariram? That is an immediate question which should strike you when you're talking about Pancha Kosha. Because we have done only, we said it is Pancha Kosha Viveka. Unfortunately, you are stopped at the fourth Kosha. What happened to the fifth one? Okay, that question should have arisen. The reason is that you can't do anything in that Kosha. When you enter the Anandamaya Kosha, what is available to you? Nothing. You are in a state of sushupti, deep sleep, which is worthless from the point of view of sadhana. And therefore, Yamaraj here skips. Mind you, in Taittiriya Upanishad, there's a totally different explanation, okay, that we will talk about when we come there. But here, Yamaraj totally skips. Also an interesting point. When Upanishad gives different explanations for the same processes. For example, in Tattvabodha, we said there are 5 koshas, right? And there are 5 elements, we say. Now in Chandogya Upanishad, Shruti talks about 3 elements. So how do you resolve these contradictions? Because the same Veda is talking in different sections. Every Upanishad is a section only. So in one section, Upanishad says that you've got 5 elements. In another section, Upanishad says you've got 4 elements, 3 elements. How do you resolve? That's a very good explanation. Yeah.
Sthula Sharira, Sukshma and Karavish.
No. The explanation is that the Tatparyam, the essence of the Upanishad is what? Atma. It is not Anatma. And therefore, if deliberately Shruti gives you different sets of explanations to make you understand that this is not the Tatparyam, that if you want to learn about Anatma, please go and study physics and chemistry and biology and math. All those things don't come to Shruti. Therefore, it gives you, even though a lot of time is spent by the Veda on Anatma, we must remember that Anatma is never the essence of the Veda. And therefore, if you want to study Anatma, there is a subject and there is an object for which science is available. Right? You should not come to Shruti at all. Whatever explanations that Shruti gives about Anatma is only to indicate that Anatma is expendable. You do not need to focus on Anatma for Atma Jnana. Similarly, you will find that in Bhagavad Gita also, a lot of talk about karma is there. But karma is not the essence of Bhagavad Gita. Jnanam is. And therefore, the entire karma, all the yajnas, in fact, in chapter 4, there is a whole list of some 11, 12 yajnas, right? Why is it given? Shankara explains very clearly that don't be confused. What Krishna's intention is not to teach you the yajnas, not to teach you how to do the rituals. It is to point out the limitations of those rituals so that you drop them. Similarly here, Yamaraj is giving you an indication of Anatma, but the idea is to tell you that Anatma is not really important. You need to drop all Anatma and finally move into the Atma. So that is what we said. And therefore, from Mahat, Hiranyagarbha comes from Vijnanamaya Kosha, you go straight to Hiranyagarbha, bypassing the Anandamaya Kosha in this particular Upanishad. And from Hiranyagarbha, he says Shante Atmani. Shanta Atmani is Nirguna Brahman, Nirguna Atma. So from Mahat, from the Hiranyagarbha, the Shruti takes us straight to Atma. And therefore, we need to transcend Jiva, Jagat, and Ishvara, which are all Saguna, which are all got divisions. Shanta Atma is the consciousness principle. The Chaitanya Atma, in which there is neither Vyashti nor Samashti. These divisions do not exist. The individual and the universal or the total, they don't exist in Atma. And this is how you implement Pancha Kosha Viveka. So Shankara comments here, in this manner, he says, Evam. Evam what? In the manner which has been taught, that is, in the Nididhyasanam has been taught in this and the previous mantras, in that manner, he says, and he uses some very nice words, which I will tell you. In this manner, having done that, Sarvam Pravilapya. So I told you, Pravilapanam. The entire Atma, Anatma Prapancha, the entire Anatma universe has been dissolved. This Pravilapanam is an intellectual dissolution. It's a cognitive dissolution. The awareness that existence does not belong to the Atma. The understanding that existence is not an intrinsic property of Anatma, but has been borrowed from, I won't say Atma. That existence of the world has been borrowed from whom?
Maya.
Nope.
From me.
From me.
Mhm.
The existence of the world has been borrowed from me. This is the Pravilapana. The awareness that the whole world, it has no independent existence of its own. It borrows existence from me. And remember that I continue to use the anatma, right? I have cognitively resolved the anatma, but physically anatma remains. And therefore I continue to use that anatma. What kind of anatma? Shankara says sarvam, all anatma. And that all is explained in 3 words: nama, rupa, karma. So he says, Shankara says that all anatma can be brought under 3 classifications: nama, rupa, and karma. So karma is a very specific function associated with the name and form. So nama, rupa, name and form, and all their activities are karma, which covers the entire world of anatma. What kind of anatma? He says, yan mithya jnana vijrambhitam. That anatma, which is vijrambhitam, projected. Because of what? Mithya jnana. Because of a mistaken understanding that anatma is different from you. Because of that, which is called adhyasa, this nama, rupa, and karma, they appear. They as if appear. And he further divides this anatma into 3 things: Kriya, Karaka, and Phalam. So what is Kriya? Is karma. Karaka is the factors of karma, and Phalam. Right? What are the factors of karma? Things like the karta, the karanam, the instrument, all these. If you look at the vibhakti table in Sanskrit, all those case endings, they are all representing the various factors of karma. So Karaka, it is called in Sanskrit. So Kriya, Karaka, and Phalam. The karma, Kriya, its factors, what enables the karma to be performed is the Karaka, the factors, and the Phalam, the results. This is the basic characteristic of anatma. And we must remember that in any language, every word or any language which you use, the language is used to describe only one of these 3 characteristics: Kriya, Karaka, or Phalam. How? Nouns will reveal what? The Karaka, the factors of action, and the nouns will reveal the Phalam, the consequences of the action. Verbs will reveal what? The action itself. And since nouns reveal the Karakas and the consequences and the Phalam, obviously nouns cannot reveal Atma. Why? Because Atma is beyond Karaka and Kriya and Phalam. So nouns cannot reveal Karakas, nouns cannot reveal Atma. Verbs reveal only Kriya, the action. Therefore, verbs cannot reveal Atma. Therefore, neither nouns can reveal Atma, nor can verbs reveal Atma. And therefore, we say that Atma is beyond nouns and verbs, or in other words, beyond the Karaka, Kriya, Phala. Atma is Karaka, Kriya, Phala, Vilakshanam.
Acharya, I'm so sorry, I have a question.
Yeah.
When you say verbs, you're talking about the word verb or the actual action?
Any verb, walking, talking.
So that's not the word, but actual walking and etc.
The verb, any verb which talks about, not word, verb.
Yes.
Which talks about any action that reveals only the action. And since Atma cannot be the action, that verb will not reveal Atma. Similarly, if I use a noun, the doer or the consequence, like karta, phalam, these are also revealing only the karakas and the phalam. These cannot reveal Atma. Therefore, the conclusion here is, what Shankara arrives at, Atma is Karaka, Kriya, Phala, Vilakshanam, different from all these 3. And if this is so, then the question is, how do I do this resolution? This pravilapanam, how do I do? And Shankara uses some beautiful terminology. He says, Swatma yathatmya jnanena. So Swatma means me, right? Or my real nature. So Atma, what is my real nature? Jnanena, by knowing that. But there is a very carefully used word, yathatmya. So yathatmya is yatha atmya, which is Here the word Atma is not Satchitananda. Here the word Atma represents the real nature. And Yatha means Yatha, just as. So Yathatmyam is the real nature of something as it is. So Swatma Yathatmya Jnanena means by understanding the real nature of the Atma as it is. You have to understand what is the real nature of the Atma. And Shankara gives 3 examples. He says, Maricha Udaka, mirage water, Rajju Sarpaha, that you know, right? Rope snake. And Gagana Malaniva, impurity in the sky. All these are seen, all these appear because of what? Because of what we used earlier. Mithya Jnana Vijrambhitaha. They are projected because of inadequate or mistaken knowledge. Then the question is, how do you resolve? Where is the pravilapana? Right? And we'll use the example of the Rajju snake. If you want to resolve the snake, what should you do? You should inquire into what? The snake or the rope?
You don't know that the rope is there, so therefore the snake.
When you inquire into the snake, what do you find?
Rope.
You find the rope. And therefore the inquiry into the snake is nothing but an inquiry into the rope. Right? Now, if you apply that principle to this world, if you want to resolve this world, you will first inquire into the world. And then you will find that there is a substratum, Adhishthanam. That is the Atma or Brahman. You will inquire into that Brahman and you will find what? That Brahman alone exists. The world is simply not there. So he says, Eva, just as this snake is resolved into the rope by inquiry into the rope, similarly, this Jagat, this world, is resolved by an inquiry into Atma. And after this pravilapanam is done, after this dissolution happens, this cognitive dissolution happens, what do they do? Swasthaha, Vajnani, he abides in his own real nature, which is what? Prashanta Atma, free from all disturbances. And Shankara quotes from Bhagavad Gita, Kritakrityo Bhavati. Where does it appear? Kritakrityo Bhavati. Not the exact words, it's a paraphrase. Kritakrit is where? What does it mean? Very, very famous word. Very famous sloka also. What is Kritakrityaha? I can give you a small little hint. What is the hint? Do you remember the most difficult verse in TTC? Which nobody understood. 4.18. Okay, so Kritakritya appears over there. The person who has done all that is required to be done. The person who sees that wherever action is there, he understands there is inaction also. Wherever inaction is there, he understands that there is action also. The person who understands these both, which means the person who has understood the nature of Brahman and the nature of Maya, he becomes Kritakritaha. He has done all that is required to be done in his life. He has falsified the Ahankara. And once you have falsified the Ahankara, remember that all duties are associated only with the Ahankara. All problems in life are associated only with Ahankara. All sorrows are associated only with Ahankara. And when I have falsified Ahankara, I have no more duties, I have no more sorrow. The Ahankara will continue with its duties because the body can never be free of karma. But the Jnani knows that Ahankara is continuing with its duties because of prarabdha karma and I am not affected. This is Pravilapanam. So with this, we'll stop for the day in case there are any questions.
Acharya,
Yes, June.
so I have two questions. The first one is regarding in the beginning of the class when we were saying that after Shravanam and Mananam, they are completed like assimilated.
No, I didn't say that. I said after Shravanam and Mananam, you have understood
Yes, you
without
understood
doubts.
without doubts
But
that you're
assimilation
Brahman.
of the knowledge is a completely different thing. Assimilation means all the habitual thinking patterns have gone also.
Yes. So in many times in the Bhagavad Gita class we use the jnani word as in this context meaning like the jivan mukta. But in this case, up before Nididhyasamam, we cannot call that person a jivan mukta yet. Or can we call a jivan mukta without enjoying the benefits of Anmajnana?
Jivan Mukta you can't be because you're not enjoying the benefits. Right? Now the problem with, see, ultimately a jnani is defined as the person who knows he's Brahman.
Mhm.
So if you want to understand it in technical terms, yes. You can be crying all the time, but if you are Brahman, you are Jivan. Once you know you're Brahman, you're a Jivan Mukta, you're a crying Jivan Mukta, but you're a Jivan Mukta.
Mm.
The problem is what? That because of that crying, because of the sorrow which is constantly bothering you, because of habitual thinking patterns, that might shake your knowledge. That doubtless knowledge which you have, that might get disturbed because of the problems arising because of your thinking patterns. And therefore, Nididhyasanam is a must. Who wants to live the rest of his life crying away? We don't. You want to get rid of all those patterns.
Thank you, Acharya.
Yes,
And-
Tanmay.
Oh, sorry.
Acharya, I remember also having asked the same question many moons ago, perhaps in the Bhagavad Gita classes when we were still doing them with you. And I remember you had at some point in time mentioned, based on that, you'd said it very nicely that all Jivan Muktas are Jnanis, but all Jnanis are not necessarily
Not
Jivan.
necessarily Jivan Muktas.
So the Nididhyasanam process is, and this also you had explained, I think in the 18th chapter you had perhaps explained it, I'm not really sure when, but when the process of Shravan and Manan, also the Mananam process kind of, there is no definite stopping of that, in that sense.
There is no stopping. You continue to do it throughout your life.
And however, those doubts are all resolved, but now all your conscious decisions, the ones that are being taken, are done from the manaha and buddhihi, from those which you have control over. But your chitta, the subconscious, is where all your previous, thinking patterns, behavioral patterns, they're kind of stored there, and that happens as an automatic response. It is not something you're consciously doing.
Yeah. So your actions are all based on your knowledge, but your reactions are still that of a ajnani, because reactions are not conscious. That's what they call reactions. They all come from a subconscious. All that subconscious hurt and anger and resentment, which is there in the subconscious, that has to be got rid of. And that is the process of your Nididhyasana.
Thank you. Acharya, the second question.
Yeah.
So when you were explaining that when we are doing this Pravilapanam, we jump from the Mahat to the Atma. We skip the Anandamaya Kosha.
Yeah.
But can we explain that in short words one more time, please, if possible? I will review the recording, but just want to hear one more time, please.
You can't go from into Anandamaya Kosha. Very simple. Because there is nothing to be done over there excepting sleep. Because you don't even know that you are there. Right? So what do you do? The process is intellectual. Remember, the intellect has to be available. But in Anandamaya Kosha, your subtle body is resolved. Excepting for the Pranamaya Kosha, all the other koshas are resolved in deep sleep. which is Anandamaya Kosha, right? And therefore, here Yamaraj skips. But as I said, there is another step which you can take given elsewhere, which once you come to Anandamaya Kosha, you realize that you know nothing. There is nothing available to you. And therefore you ask, who is it that knows that there is nothing? So I don't want to confuse you, so I didn't bring in that portion, but I'm sure I will get enough opportunities to confuse you later. So why do it right now? So, okay.
So much.
Yeah, it's very difficult to wrap your mind around the concept of knowing nothing also.
Knowing
right?
nothing.
Like,
So
what does
that,
it do?
what is it? Knowing nothing is a post-sleep event. I knew that I knew nothing. You can't say in Anandamaya Kosha, I know nothing. The person who says that is a pramata. That pramata is available only when the mind is there, which is post waking up. So that has to be resolved. Okay, so with this, we'll close for the day. Thank you so much. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat. Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you, Acharya.
Have a great day, guys.
Thank
Thanks
you.
to Acharya.